Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Whatever time you're watching this, as always, thanks for watching Common Sense Talks. So, today we're doing a quick live stream and I'm going to go off on a rant. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, thanks for watching. This is Common Sense Talks, where I cover all kinds of different topics and subjects. I'll upload videos about HVAC, how to do stuff, tips and tricks videos. We'll also do movie reviews, gaming reviews, all kinds of crazy stuff. We talk about news and current politics and opinion. And this is my channel to rant and rave and say what I want, while my other channel is dedicated to primarily fishing. So welcome to Common Sense Talks live stream. We just got here, just starting, and boy, do I have a lot I want to say. So if we get some people on live tonight, great. If you're watching this at a later time, please consider smashing that like and subscribe button and leave a comment below and let me know what you think. I'm always open to constructive criticism, even trolling. I'm always game to have fun. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I want to talk about a lot of different things, and I'm going to make sure I try to cover myself and cover my butt so I don't get in trouble with YouTube. I'm going to preface this video with this is my opinion. This is opinion on current events, old events, and how it all ties together, where I see we're at, where I see we're going. None of this is to be construed as financial or medical advice. Go talk to a doctor. But we're going to talk about how I got the coof, how it went through the entire family. We're going to talk about how there's 8 people living in this house, 2 morbidly obese, one over 60, so almost 70 years old, and another one over 400 pounds. My dad and brother disabled, both got the Rona, both doing fine. All of the children got it. All of the adults got it. Me, the wife, my wife, and our 4 kids all got it. Everybody fine over it within about 2 to 3 days, maybe 4 days for the most. Body aches, headaches, sniffles, pretty much it. Now, COVID's real. There's lots of different variants, and people have died from it. It is not a joke. However, with that being said, should we all be shut down? Should the economy be wrecked? And, you know, especially at this point with this variant out there, how far should we take this? Should we be mandated vaccines? Should children be mandated vaccines? Especially when there are signs that show there is a decent amount of people developing blood clots and cardiac arrest issues. I'm not saying that the vaccine's not safe, but just talk to your doctor. And so I just want to get all that out there. Think about where we're at right now with that, how crazy that is. I want to lead in also, that probably should have been saved for later, but, I just wanted to discuss that, get that out off the bat, that we all had it. Now, we're still testing positive 6-7 days later, and, you're not 100% feel better. It takes a while. So, it's just, you can tell it's a serious virus, but, it's not the end of the world, in my opinion. So now let's talk about, I want to talk about Gislaine Maxwell, the wife or estranged wife or whatever, or lover of Jeffrey Epstein, who ran Pedo Island, and basically, like almost every powerful man that is been to that island or has close ties to them, and we know for a fact that he has pictures and videos of people doing these things with these underage girls. So there should be no doubt. We know who is guilty. We know what they've done. But the sad fact is the case has been sealed. All these rich and powerful people are not going to get in any trouble. So we using Gislaine Maxwell as a scapegoat. So you have this rich, powerful person who traffics young underage people and traffics those to other rich and powerful people, names such as Kevin Spacey, Tom Hanks, names such as Prince Andrew, names such as Bill Clinton have been there multiple times. Even someone named Trump has been on his plane before, but according to Trump, and you can look at the logs, he hasn't rode it a lot. I think he's been on there once. And was a one and done, like, hey, this isn't for me. I don't know what he does or doesn't know or did or didn't know about the whole operation or thing, But there's so many powerful people that are connected to this. We know that he has proof and blackmail. We know that there are videos, and why this is not coming out should be. This is just something that enrages me and should enrage every American. Where we're over here arguing about SJWs, we're arguing about the fact was like what 20 unarmed black men killed by cops when they've killed 1,000 unarmed other people, white and Hispanic and this and that. And we're over here dividing ourselves and fighting amongst so much stupidity, while we know for a fact that a lot of people like Bill Gates, I think, is even on this thing. So all the big wigs of all the companies that control our lives, from companies like Microsoft, Apple, for the government, from other governments like UK, the damn Prince, and all these other people, we pretty much assuredly have the dirt, have the proof, have the pictures, have the video, and we're not doing nothing about it. That should be the story of the day right there for this forever and ever and ever. As well as we all know, Jeffrey Epstein did not self-delete. Come on now. The guards were shopping for motorcycles and all kinds of stuff, fell asleep, the cameras weren't working. How much BS do you have to buy in modern day America to know when you're being sold some horse shit? So you look at the state of affairs that we're in right now. It's like people care more about the Kardashians than you've got these little girls being trafficked, and we can prove like we can bring down half of the world right now through simple, peaceful, legal means by just simply holding them accountable for what we know they've done. And this would bring down companies and powerful empires, and we would be able to break up monopolies. So for those of you who are semi-socialist, socialist, or you're left wing, you should be real on board with this. And Republicans, independents, you say you have a backbone, you say you care, you believe in God, then you should be behind this. Every damn American, unless you're a pedo yourself, should be behind finding out who the hell these people were that abused these little girls. Should be finding out who these powerful men are and holding them accountable. So this is just disgusting. And another thing, along those lines, one thing Trump never got credit for is, in all the age of the internet and all the age of technology, where you've had Clinton, you've had Bush, and you've had Obama, all have 8 years in office. So 24 freaking years, and not one of those presidents did squat about online prostitution, about Craigslist, My Red Book, My Pink Book, My Brown Book, any of those things, and all the sites where you could literally buy underage girls and prostitutes online. And Trump's the first freaking guy that his first year in, he basically destroys all of that single-handedly, and he doesn't get a drop of credit for that. Even it's funny that he's not running around touting that. And he's proud of his whole Operation Warp Speed and his vaccine. He should be extremely proud to be the first president in 24 years, or in the existence of the internet, to actually stop online sex trafficking in its tracks, pretty much, and make it extremely hard. Then, even though there's still the dark web and other stuff, by doing what he did, he literally destroyed the sex trafficking industry, like just wiped it out. And he gets no credit for that, which is pathetic. It's like, come on, folks, and again, here we are worried about just dumbass shit while prices are going up left and right around us. Inflation's through the roof. We knew Bush, when Bush did the whole saving, bailing out the bankers, we knew it was the banksters. It was all bad. They just Bernie Madoff's the only guy going down, when our own government basically printed money out of thin air to basically save the stocks and market, the bankers and the big hedge funds, while the little guys got shafted and screwed. And that was a blip. What happened between Bush and Obama. That was just a blip. And now you have even Trump printing trillions of dollars, and then Biden printing trillions of dollars. Like over 50% of the money in existence today was printed in the last year or two. Like, let that sink in. Is like if you looked at the M1 market, the money supply, and yeah, they count savings as well, but still, if you look at it, it took it took like 20 or 30 years for the supply to double, and it was always in the billions. And it coincides with, of course, the Federal Reserve. Of course, I think it was a Reagan or Nixon, or with Nixon, or took us off the gold and silver standard so that our money was not tied to any kind of physical currency. So, like, we didn't, if we printed X amount of money, we had to have X amount of gold to back it. And so, basically, we created a fiat currency, and that allowed our country to then print unlimited quantities and supplies of money and be able to just produce money out of thin air, which is going to have a tremendously bad effect. The more supply you create, the less it's worth. So while you're bailing out the banksters and you're bailing out all these big hedge fund corporations, if you're mom and pop and you saved a couple grand in your account, your couple grand was worth X amount in the early 2000s. Now that couple grand is worth nothing. Your rent's gone up from, a 3 bedroom or 2 bedroom apartment was 550 to 750 back in the early 2000s, and now just 15 years later, that same apartment's almost 1,500. It's absurd. People can't afford this. People can't live here. It's just property values have just insanely spiked when they shouldn't. The cost of everything is going up. There's, shelves, supply shortages. And then our dumbass in the last 20 years, right, or 40 years, when we opened up trade with China, just was happy to get our cheap Chinese made products. So all our factories started going to China because it's cheaper to take as a company to go and build a factory in Tijuana or Mexico, where you can pay the Mexicans $1 an hour, or even worse, go to China where you can slave them and use the Uyghur Muslims and force them to work in your factories, or pay somebody, children and under, other people 50 cents an hour, let's say, and then less regulations. And you build the stuff over there, you employ those people, you give them a pittance, and then you get these cheaply made products that you can then import and sell to us, the consumers, to live like fat rich cats, like fat rats, while the rest of the world is living on bare bones. So it's so crazy to me where life's at today and where people's priorities are at. And the fact that, you know, the world hates America, saved the world after World War II, and we were in its good graces. Even the people who were the bad guys were like, yeah, we did wrong, right? Even Germany and Japan, they're like, we screwed up. So America was sitting on top of the world. And through the last 50 years, it has managed to piss away all that goodwill, invading Vietnam, invading Korea, invading freaking Panama, invading all these other places, invading Cuba with the Bay of Pigs, invading Iraq and Afghanistan for something the Saudi Arabians supposedly did. So we'll get into 9/11. 9/11 again. I don't want to spread misinformation. I don't want to claim to know the truth. All I know is that I believe, my opinion is that we're not being told the truth, and it didn't happen the way the government told us. Building 7 is proof of that. There's no way that Building 7 came down. It wasn't even hit by a plane. How did it fall straight down? There's video of firemen saying, get back, we're going to bring the building down. You cannot just plant in the middle of an emergency and bring a building down. You cannot just decide to bring a building down or to allow it to fall. In order to bring a building down, there has to be advanced planning and engineering, charges set, beams cut. It has to be pre-planned. You can't just bring the building down. Yet there are multiple videos of firemen saying, we're going to bring the building down. Like they knew the building was going to come down. There's just no way, scientifically, engineer wise, The three buildings fall in on themselves. The two trade towers were meant to take multiple hits from airplanes, not just one. And then when the airplane hit and blew up in a big fireball, all of the heat and energy was released into the open atmosphere where, let's say it's 70 degrees or 60 degrees at 7 in the morning on the East Coast when that happened, with X amount of humidity. Well, that explosion, that fireball, and those thousands of degrees of heat is expelled away, out and away from the building. And then all that's left burning is the remnants afterwards. And you're not going to loosen the beams throughout the whole building to create a pancake effect perfectly to fall down. The building will have heat more on one side more than the other. The plane hit one side. You're going to have wind factors. And so if that heat does transfer down, it's not going to transfer through the core uniformly. It's going to transfer unevenly. And if it were to buckle and weaken, one side would do it over others, while it would be cooler and less heat transfer. And so the building would fall at an angle. It wouldn't fall in on itself like that, even if it were to fall. It's just so insanely stupid that Americans buy 9/11, and that a bunch of Saudi Arabian hijackers supposedly hijack us, and then we're what, invading Afghanistan and Iraq? How the hell does that work? And then Bush is making jokes about weapons of mass destruction, and there never were none in there. And we freaking tracked Saddam down and then hung him, and he's a world leader, even though yes, he's a bad dude and he did bad things, but the bad people or the bad things he were doing was to people like ISIS and Al Qaeda to keep Iraq stable. So I'm not saying it was good. I'm not necessarily saying he was all bad. If you look at America's actions speak louder than words. We have bases in like 100 and something countries. We have bases in Germany, have bases here. Our military is bigger than like the 7 biggest next countries all combined. And we walk around with our saber, and rattle it and point it and punk people. And we have been invading. You haven't been hearing about Russia or China invading this country or invading that country. Well, actually, a little bit. Russia invaded Ukraine, and China's talking about trying to invade Taiwan. But, we're over here invading entire countries like Iraq, Afghanistan for no good damn reason. And it's just insane. And so right now, the world freaking hates us. Go anywhere as an American and you'll get stink eye. No, nobody really likes America like they used to. Back after World War II, we were the saviors of the world. Now it's like, you stinky Yankee or American, get away from us, But people don't like Americans, and they have a dang good reason not to, if you think about it and history. Now, I love America, I love our country, and I love our people, but our government's been doing some super bad things under our name. And we need to be aware of what's going on. We need to check our own government. We need to hold ourselves accountable for letting it come to this shit. We need to understand that it's our responsibility to vote these bums out, rhinos and Democrats both. For example, if you're a Republican, did you know that Dan Crenshaw voted to create a vaccine registry? It means the federal government's going to keep an eye and know who is or isn't vaccinated, like some kind of Nazi Germany. What the hell is this? I thought Dan Crenshaw was a good guy. He's just a piece of shite, scum, bum, in my opinion. And I'd tell that to his one-eye willy looking face. Like, I'm pissed at him for that. How dare he? And then Senator Ted Cruz is now flipping like a punk, showing the rhino that he is, after being all super, mandate, no mandates, no shots. Yeah, doing a good job there. But then you turn around and you say that January 6th was a terrorist act, when if you watch that video, it was just a bunch of pissed off Americans protesting. And yes, it was bad what happened. Yes, there were some bad actors. However, majority of the people that went into the Capitol, the police let them in. Like, it's not trespassing if you were let in. People were moving things out of the way so that people could come in. And there's people saying, come in, come in, come in. And then we don't even know who those people are. Yet they can track down little old ladies in random mass places who were in the crowd. but they can't see some dude screaming at the top of his lungs, because it's probably a CIA or an FBI agent. It's crazy to think that what happened January 6th, to call that like a terrorist attack when the people who died were predominantly Trump supporters and Americans. You had a police officer, I think, had a heart attack. They claimed that he was hit with a fire extinguisher when he wasn't, had a medical emergency and died. But then you had Ashley Babbitt, who was shot through a door or a window or whatever and was killed for no reason, wasn't doing anything wrong, and just was like peeking in and just got blasted. And nobody's going to hold that officer accountable for. Yeah, sure, right? It's crazy. And that's just a bunch of Americans pissed off because our elections were fortified. Time magazine admits that our elections were fortified and that there was a cabal of secret people working together to save democracy. I mean, they basically came out and spelled it. And does that mean that there was widespread super fraud? It means that they played all kinds of dirty tricks, like they changed election rules illegally, unconstitutionally. They did all kinds of things before the election to allow mass mail-in ballots, not even checking signatures, no voter ID. It's just insane pandemonium. So just even if the election wasn't quote unquote stolen, the idea, the point is that it gives the integrity, it makes it look bad, right? So again, I'm not saying that anything was illegitimate. I'm just saying that the things that led up to that really put a stink eye on it because it makes doubt, right? So it screws with people's mind. And you've got obvious facts that you can see with your own two eyes. And you got big tech censoring and shutting down videos, ban hammering channels, demonetizing them, giving them strikes, false fact finding or false, putting all kinds of restrictions on channels who openly have proof or talking about things or opinions. And then on the other side, you've got the left spewing lies left and right that are proven and are getting in no consequences, no ban hammers. It's just so asinine and so crazy about how CNN lied about the Russia hoax for years. And then you have Hunter Biden's laptop with video proof and YouTube and Facebook banning that story to protect Biden in the damn election. Come on, you can't tell me that there's something fishy going on when big tech's colluding with one side of political party to help ensure that they win by playing dirty, by banning videos about Hunter Biden and his laptop with smoking crack and being with underage prostitutes, all kinds of crazy shit. And you're supposedly not allowed to talk about it. Now, according to what I'm doing, I've read the YouTube terms of service. I'm not doing anything wrong. Everything that I'm saying and speaking is either the truth, my opinion, and also stated is that, and I'm also not talking about things or claiming things that YouTube doesn't want. Like, for one, I'm not trying to spread misinformation about the vaccines or about medical misinformation. I'm not trying to say the election was rigged or stolen at all. I'm just simply putting out facts, how crazy it is, how one side is Looney Tunes, wants to shut everything down, doesn't like to discuss about it, calls everybody terrorists, liars, calls them white supremacists and racists, and won't have anything to do with the conversation, while the other side wants to think critically, wants to debate, wants to have open conversation. You can obviously tell who the bad guy in this story is. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's so crazy. So, with that said, look at where we're coming to. Where is this all coming? What is this all culminating to? It looks like you've got World War III on the horizon. The whole world's falling apart. You had a pandemic that shut everything down. The world's strongest superpower is now weakened. Our economy is weakened. Our population is weakened. Our military's been purged. So they went through and they purged people who had the "Don't Tread on Me" flag. They were kicking them out of the military. People who were supporters of Trump and anyone who supported the going to the Capitol January 6th to voice your opinion, purged. And then they went through all this SJW, social engineering training. If you didn't agree, purged. Then they went through vaccine mandates, and if you didn't get the vaccine, purged. So our military is filled with these beta male, you know, women and just weirdos that don't even really love our country. And I'm sure there's still a lot of great people in the military, but they've done a good job at purging a lot of Americans, basically. So how strong is our military when it cares more about white fragility and white rage, the supposed, white rage and white fragility, and it cares more about social construct issues than it does China or Russia, or the fact that China has hypersonic missiles that we can't even defend against, and the fact that there's all these UFO sightings near all our bases, and it seems like everything's falling apart, and our country's concerned about pregnant flight suits and shit. It's just asinine and it's crazy. So look at where the world is set up. We are not in a strong position. The world hates us, and China, Russia, Korea, North Korea, and a bunch of other countries have good reason and good positioning right now to do something about now America as a superpower. If you know things like the fourth turning, if you understand things like the fact history just shows that nations rise and falls, and that superpowers and that empires only last so long, and there's cycles and stuff that we all go through, and history would dictate that we're due a major event, that this empire is crumbling and falling, and you can see it before your very eyes. United we stand, divided we fall. And the left is so concerned with social identity, with transgenderism, with gender identity, sexual identity, with defunding the police, with all this fake kumbaya crap where they think they're going to create a utopia, and they're just destroying the foundations of a very well built home, and they're wrecking it so bad that this is almost irreparable at this point. That we're also setting up for a civil war. Because at this point, Americans, it's just way too easy to say that you hate the others. It's just way too easy to look at what people are doing on the left with the 1619 Project, with critical race theory, with trying to brainwash our children, with sexualizing our children, transgenders, kids using the locker rooms, with guys using locker rooms. Yeah, just you in here tonight. So hopefully we'll get some more people in, but if not, hopefully we'll get the message out. And some more people will see this video after it's live, because this is a live video, but down the road, people may click and watch this as a video, and hopefully get something out of this, because it's so damn important that we do something about this before it comes to what I'm talking about, because we all have more in common with each other than we do with China or Russia. And we have more in common with each other than we do with the Mark Zuckerbergs and Jeff Bezoses, and even the Donald Trumps or the Bushes or the Obamas or the Whoopi Goldbergs or the whatevers of the world. So it's important that we understand that we polarized ourselves to this point of almost no return, where the left hates the right. It's not even it's not even like it was black and white. It was so easy. They used race to divide us before, but now there's a lot of black conservatives, there's a lot of white liberals, right? So you've got groups of people that are mixed, that are just like, oh, nice. They lifted the research ban on weed. That's good. They finally need to decriminalize that shit federally. That'll be one thing that might help bring the country together a little bit, because people need to take a chill pill. People need to relax. People need to understand that there are problems, and we should come together to solve them instead of blaming each other and yelling at each other. Because if we don't, China, Russia is going to eat our lunch. The economy's collapsing. It's looking like a civil war is coming. People are enraged at Joe Biden and the Democrats. And at this point, even if you don't like Republicans and you don't like, the Trump and stuff like that, I don't know how anyone could look at what's going on right now and what's happening with Biden and support that. And if you do, that's part of my point, right? So it's not that I dislike you or anything. It's just saying we can agree to disagree, but I'm just showing that there are people out there that believe that what's happening right now is a good thing. They think that climate change is going to destroy the world within 12 years. Then I present to you, why did Obama and then buy a $14 million mansion right on the edge of the ocean if the sea level is going to rise and if the end of the world is going to happen in 12 years, right? So, yes, climate change is real. Yes, it's bad to destroy the environment. Can we come some together in the middle, right? But what's happened is that you got people that are so insane that they're okay with this runaway inflation. They're okay with property values, homes going from 80,000 to 300,000. People can't afford their rent. People can't afford to live in their homes. China, all our stuff is made in China. Yeah, unrest, but I don't see war. Those two possible ways, I'll explain that. And I hope not. Because, see, when America with so much unrest, right? Maybe not war right now. So there's two possible ways I see that this could unfold in a negative way. There's positive ways we can come together, lick our wounds, and live to see another day. So we can come together. We can definitely overcome this. However, we're so far down the road. It's a tough uphill battle. So the two ways I could see it working out is because we are so conflicted, there's so much unrest, because the left and the right are at each other's throat, we are not unified. Now, if the divide isn't big enough and we are attacked, we come together as one and we just go smash the bad guys, right? A good example of that would be 9/11. Everybody was behind, like, hell no, you don't attack America. We'll put the damn, screws to you real quick. But then when stuff starts coming out, 9/11 is an inside job. Then you got Bush crazy talking about weapons of mass destruction, invading Iraq. Then you have behind the scenes, they're talking about they want to invade Syria, Iran, Yemen, all these other places. And it's just like, whoa, 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 right? There's just all this craziness going on. Um, we can unite, but if the divide between us is big enough, and we're hit with something, it will fracture us, right? And so here's my point is that we're close to damn near a civil war. Like, you either are right at this point in life, you're either super BLM, super like social justice warrior, everybody who's white is bad guy, though the whole world's racist. Teaching people that the critical race theory like is like literally only hammering on the negatives of history, blaming everything on white people and racism and stuff. Not seeming they don't understand. Irish people were enslaved. Irish people couldn't use the white bathrooms. Irish people were treated just like black people. Irish people were actually enslaved. They were when back in the days when you had a colored bathroom and a white bathroom, an Irish person could not use the white bathroom. They had to use the colored bathroom. Shit you not, in a lot of places. A lot of people don't know this stuff. So they look at a white person and all they think is you got white privilege. Do you understand that there's so many different races? There's German, there's British, there's French, there's Irish, there's Scottish, there's Dutch. There's all these different races, and each one of them came from different backgrounds when they came here and settled America. And certain ones did have more privilege than others, and certain groups did have more, but certain groups were just, you had the Oklahoma, you had the Great Depression, you had white people called carpetbaggers. They were taking up everything that they had. The old cartoon where you see a guy walking with a broomstick or a mop stick, and he's got a bag tied with all his belongings in him. That's a trope from the 1920s, from from the Great Depression, where there were so many poor people that got destroyed when the Great Depression happened. The Dust Bowl came, their farms were knocked out. They were literally bum, homeless white people that migrated to California to have a better chance at living. And that was only like 80 years ago. And so there are families who literally had nothing and were like homeless and built up what they have. And so, yes, there are racial problems. Yes, there are issues, but people are so divided right now. They're in one or the other camps, and they cannot easily bridge that gap. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the only race that belongs in America were Native Americans. I'm Native American, but I'm a mixed breed. So a little tangent about me. In my childhood, I got picked on and bullied by the white kids. So I experienced racism from white kids. I wasn't white enough to hang out with the upper class white kids that played on the soccer team or the baseball team. When the baseball team had tryouts, even though I was good, they didn't want me on the team. I wasn't white enough to hang out with the group of cool kids, right? But then there would be like the Mexicans would make fun of me, like, hey, gringo, like, fuck you, güero. Like they would treat me like I'm white. I'm not Mexican, right? And some of the blacks, the gangbangers would be like, oh, honky cracker, this, that, and so I grew up experiencing bullying and racism from all different damn aspects. And I also grew up in the hood, smoking blunts, rapping and stuff. So I got to sit there and hear black people talk shit about white people, like even though I'm sitting right there with them, because I wasn't technically one of them, like the white people. Like I was one of the cool ones. So, and then they knew like I was mixed race. So they would open up, they talk. I get to hear some very vile, bad black people talking just nasty shit about white folks. And I've heard white people talking bad about black people, like, oh, I don't want to hire that guy because he's black. Nobody will trust him in their homes. So no, I wouldn't. I've heard it both ways. It's horrible. It's fucked. It's screwed. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like racism in any form. We should not hate white people. We should not hate Mexicans. We should not hate blacks. We should not hate each other unless we have a good reason, like someone's molesting, murdering, raping, and stealing and shit, right? Be good to each other. And I think a lot of us, we have that in common, but it's getting there, right? It's the end goal. So you got people on the left, they think that all cops are bad, right? They think that all this and that. But at the end, they claim like they want to have equality, they want to have freedom, they want to have all this. And so do we, but a lot of it is how do we get there? So we're really divided as a country, which we've usually been, right? We're not really always 100% united. But in general, we have a culture. We have that American pie, baseball, football. We have the things, entertainment, TV, comedy. We have the things that make America unique, burger and fries. And we're becoming less and less American. We're becoming less and less connected, and we're becoming more and more divided, right? So with that division, like there's a possibility of us going over war with each other. And one big principle would be if next year Republicans sweep and they take the House, they take the Senate, but there's a Democrat president still, they've overturned Roe v. versus Wade. So abortion becomes illegal. And then you have the left get all up in arms. You can't take away our right to choose. Well, wait a minute. You're saying vaccine mandates. We don't have a right to choose, right? There's a possibility for it, but I see it less likely of a physical actual war and more, like you said, more unrest, civil unrest, and issues to happen. I don't think it would come to a full civil war 2.0, but it'd be more like a Cold War. Now, this is where we have some real danger here. While we're in this position, however, a threat from an external force like China or Russia would be very real and very bad. And how it would happen, it wouldn't be them attacking us. We strategically have a great position. We have these two giant oceans, and Canada and Mexico are generally our friends. So we're really hard to invade. However, what should what should be very important and obvious to us is look at all of the short supply at all the stores. Look at the fact that you can't get a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox One right now. Look at the fact that their new car prices are through the roof because we can't get chips, because China is in control of all of our chip and computer manufacturing. And because of our policies, because of certain peoples and groups and businesses, all of our factories and production centers for things like batteries, for things like chips and computer electronics and medicines and chemicals are all outsourced and created in China. Now, the a big giant plot or group of that also comes from Taiwan. If China were to invade Taiwan, right, all China has to do is invade Taiwan and they screwed us. We're no longer a superpower. Here's what's going to happen. If China invades Taiwan, China becomes more powerful. China absorbs Taiwan. China has all these factories. China now has all the production centers of all the semiconductors, lithium ion batteries, and electronics, computers, and all the chemicals and things we need for medicines. If there's another pandemic, if we get sick, all China has to do is create another super virus, right? Release it into the world and then withhold the medicine. So create a virus, create a antivirus or antibody to it, create a vaccine, then release said virus, a much stronger, potent one, let it destroy the world, and you can keep and vaccinate your own citizenry. I am dead serious. All of our medicine production is in China, a lot of it. A lot of the chemicals come from China that even factories in Mexico require. So a lot of our, if they're not in China, a lot of our factories are in Mexico. However, where the source supply from a lot of the things that are used to make life-saving medicines, and also all our chips, computers, and all that, that comes from China. And right now, the way isn't to be buddy buddy with China. The way is we need to mine and manufacture those things in America. We need to bring plants and jobs back here to America. Places like West Virginia, Tennessee, Kansas, all spread throughout the Midwest and the central area of America where there's not a lot of jobs, there's a lot of poverty. We could take all those big manufacturing companies and give them incentives to bring and build plants and build up our own economies, build up our own people. And then if our people had more jobs, more money, and happier living that way, there would be less division here and we would be more united and may not fall to external forces. Russia right now is going after Ukraine. Russia is making steps to become the old USSR. China is making steps to become the new America, to become the superpower. China is working with Africa and working with a lot of European nations, has stepped in where America has failed or dropped the ball. And now that, see, countries are just printing money out of thin air. Like America can just print money. There's no gold or silver. So can China. China can just print money. And what China is doing is they're just printing more money. And then they're going out and they're buying countries and they're buying and investing in Africa. They're investing in all over the world. And China is really putting a hurt into us financially and economically. And we don't understand that there's so many bigger fish to fry. So that's my point. We got Gislaine Maxwell may be set free because one of the jurors hid the fact that he was sexually molested as a child and sexually abused. And because of that, they're filing for a mistrial, and Gislaine Maxwell is probably going to be set free or at least retained on hold and get a chance at another trial. Oh my God, this is insane that we have sick pedophiles molesting little girls and we know who they are. We have pictures, we have video, we have proof, and yet the CIA, FBI protected it for 20 plus years, allowed it to happen. Every rich and powerful actor, movie star, business owner is probably tied into Epstein and would bring down more than half of America's superpower, just probably by destroying the stock value and the companies that these people are associated with, but still, it needs to be held accountable. There's so much crazy things going on in the world right now. It just, the pandemic, the fact that we're 3 years in now almost, and shit's still crazy. Other countries are locking their citizens down. There's all these vaccine mandates, and then triple vaxxed, quadruple vaxxed people are still getting sick. So what the hell good does it do to take 3 vaxes if you're still getting sick? And these vaxes come with the chance of giving you blood clots and giving you cardiac arrest issues. Look it up, man. It's so insane that they don't want the information from these vaccines to be released for at least 70 years. Let that sink in. Like, damn, there's no repercussions. You can't sue these people if you or a loved one dies from these vaccines. And yet the kill rate on this virus is less than 0.01% or something like that. It's insane. And the average age of death is over 82, morbidly obese, or either comorbidities. It's just so insane. Yes, people die from the flu. People die from smoking. People die from alcohol overdose. People die in car crashes. Are we going to turn around and outlaw all these things and shut the world down because 100,000 people a year die in car crashes? It's so insane that I cannot believe that we as humans are like not just like rocking insane right now, crazy, like getting out of this. Like the world is starting to wake up, but I'm surprised that we've allowed 3 entire years of our lives to be controlled, manipulated, told what to do, and it fall apart like this. Inflation, the economy, jobs, nobody's working, shelves are empty, things and goods and services aren't moving, prices are astronomical, rents going up, everything's hitting the fan. And like I said, and then you got like what's going on with China, Russia, our own our own colleges. You can't go onto our own college without people accusing, if you have a police lives matter sticker on your computer, all of a sudden you're violent and you're racist and stuff. And come on, you guys know how I feel about the cops. I support them, but at the same time, man, still have a deep set hatred for power and for that kind of shit. For how I was abused and put in a system, removed from my home, and put in CPS's care over some bull ass shit. I've been falsely arrested and lost my rights over something I didn't do. So I have a deep distrust and hatred for the judicial system, all this shit. But I know we still need them. I know that they're a good police. And it's like people have to be able to think critically, have to be able to understand that we need to wake up out of this delirium. We need to stop hating each other. We need to come together. And people, even when they disagree, we've got to learn to stop calling each other names, making fun of each other. We need to try to understand each other. We need to try to listen. So when there's a problem between two folks or two groups, we need to listen with the intent to understand the other person's point of view before we even try to respond. And then it will make our response much more caring, thoughtful, and addressing their concerns. We have a much more likely chance of coming together and reaching a solution than throwing names, mud, pointing fingers, and talking shit. And so I think that's super important that we start doing that. We push that heavily to our kids, to our family and friends. When you see people downing and trashing liberals and people that voted for Biden, that's not cool. Stand up for them. But at the same time, it doesn't mean you can't address certain issues. If you see people bashing Trump supporters, bashing white people, bashing Republicans, stand up for them. Understand where people may come from, but I mean, bring people together. Don't push them apart. Would be my main thing. And if you're watching this, RC Creative, thanks for hanging out. Super awesome. Glad to have somebody in the chat with me today. But the main thing is if you're watching this at a later time, if you're not watching this live and you're watch this from the beginning to the end, I bounce all over the place, but man, I've seen a lot. I've got a lot up here that I'd like to share, and I just don't understand how we're letting the government divide us and let us get into hating each other. Things were going so much better in the early 2000s. Yes, there was still racism. Yes, there's still all kinds of incidents of bad things happening. But before this whole transgender weirdness took over the nation and people being crazed about what bathrooms to use, and before all these pink hair, blue haired snowflake weirdos made everything so just divisive, before the movies had to have three gay characters, a black, an Asian, a Hindu, no white males unless it's a bad guy, and then three powerful women, right? It's like they're ruining entertainment, they're ruining video games. It's like the life was so much freaking better, although it was also still bad. 9/11 was happening. We were invading Iraq and Afghanistan for no good reason. And yeah, our economy crashed in 2008. But think about how things were 20 years ago. There was issues, but they seem to be so much worse now. How the hell is that? How is that things are worse and not better? And you can only come to the conclusion that those in charge, the news, people are pushing division in the news. You think the left liberal news only reports when a black man shot by a white man or a cop? Do you think they're reporting on all the times a white dude shot by a black dude? Or the times that a cop shot by a black dude, or the times that a Mexican shoots an Asian, or something like that? They don't. They don't care. Just like when people are missing, they only report the pretty YouTubers, Gabby Patino and blah blah Brian Laundry. But you know how many Native American or Asian or poor white or black women are missing and probably being sexually trafficked or violence at home, and they don't get any kind of coverage because it doesn't help the narrative. There's always a narrative that they're trying to push, and it comes from both sides, left and right. And we as people, we got to stop letting the news and the government divide us. We got to start thinking critically. We got to get information from multiple sources. So, you know, try to, if you're someone who gets all your news from CNN, watch Fox News for a while. If you're someone who only watches Fox News, watch CNN for a while. Start getting multiple different sources of information. It'll open your eyes and ears. And that don't mean we've got to turn each other to sides, right? I got to pull everybody over to this side, or you've got to pull us over to that side. We've also got to learn to agree to disagree at the end of the day. And then at the end here, at the end, closing up my rant, we've got plenty of problems and issues that we've got to deal with in our country. Um, and we need to correct our own problems and issues here before we go trying to clean up the world. But it's important that we pay attention to history, to what's going on around us, and be cognizant of the fact that there's a reason that this lure is only X amount, or there's a reason I can buy this high end camera for X amount, because some poor people in a country like Mexico, but predominantly a place like China or Africa or somewhere, there's children and enslaved poor people who are making these products so that we can buy them dirt cheap. So there's going to be two things that happen. We should be bringing these factories back to America, for one, not to steal jobs from those poor people, but so that we can have those things made here and we can bring jobs back for us. But also so those people can have dignity. They should be paid a better wage, more comparable to what we're paying here. Then you would see there would be no reason for a factory to be over there. Yeah, there is white privilege for sure. There's white privilege. The good old boys club is for sure, and that's an example of that would be I'm not going to say what company it is because I don't want to, like, not right now. Anyways, I'm not trying to throw shade, but one of my previous employers, I do heating and air conditioning, and he said to my face he would never hire a black heating and air guy for an install or a technician because people won't trust a black guy in their home alone or in their with their wife and kids. And that was a super racist thing that I heard, and that very much upset me. I would judge people based on their character, how they act in an interview, what they show me on their application. I don't care what someone's race is, and I'm not going to buy into those kind of tropes and things. And I've seen racism systemically too, where it's towards black people. And a good example of that would be when you have like a white dude who rapes somebody and gets a year in prison deferred, like a day less than a year. So here's the rules: if you get sentenced to a year, you got to go to prison. If you're under a year, even by one day, 364 days, you can go to a local jail, which is a big difference. Prisons where the shanking and butt raping's happening. Local jail is where there's some fights every once in a while, and fools smoke cigarettes and weed in their dorms or dope and play cards and jack off and wait until they get out because it's under a year. So it's short term guys. They're not the usually hard criminals, right? So jail and prison are two big different worlds. Trust me. So you'll get somebody, the white guy will commit rape and he'll get sentenced to 364 days in jail. And then what that'll mean is that he can apply for an ankle bracelet or monitored release in a lot of instances. And he might only ever serve a week or two and be out washing like cop cars or doing community service or something, work in lieu or ankle bracelet and pay some money and be free, be a free man, go do a big heinous crime. And basically 2 weeks later, he's out, you know, not supposed to be doing drugs or alcohol, but could be having sex and drinking and doing whatever, but he just has to pay, right? He has to be on an ankle bracelet or he has to go wash cop cars for 8 hours and then go home. But he can still order in fine dining, have his girlfriend come over, blah, blah, whatever. While a black dude commits rape like that, same dude, and then ends up getting 5, 10 years in prison. There's so many instances of that happening. But in the flip side, there's plenty of instances of racism against white people. There's horrible instances where these black kids kidnapped a white special needs student and called him cracker and honky and was hitting him and slapping him and pulling his hair. And they were smoking cigarettes and putting cigarettes out on this poor, and then the kid's special needs at that. And he's pissing himself. And they're doing it and they're making fun of him on video. And they held him for like a day and a half and they finally let him go. And for people not to understand that that kind of shit exists too, it's all bad. So it goes both ways, and you know you can't just ignore, like, for example too, if you say, okay, the black community's got these issues that are hurting them, when there is white privilege, when there is systemic racism in certain pockets and areas. And this is another thing that I'll also say, being as someone from California, I grew up where my best friends were black. I grew up in a neighborhood that was military. There was an Air Force base right there. And we had Asians, we had Mexicans, we had white, we had black, but we had a fair number of everything. There was a bunch of white kids. There was a bunch of Mexican kids. There was a bunch of Asian kids, and there was a bunch of black kids. So the blacks could all hang out together. The Mexicans could all hang out together. The whites could all hang out together. And they could be segregated in a way, but they weren't really, because we all had groups of friends. We'd have 2 or 3 black homies, a couple Asian homies, a couple Mexican homies, and we'd all roll around in a big group, and we'd intermingle and talk with each other, and we were all good friends. And then as you get to high school, there were some guys going to gangs and shit. But in general, in California, in especially where we were raised, wasn't a lot of racism. I'm sorry, there just isn't. Now, when Hurricane Katrina happened, true story here, when Hurricane Katrina happened, and there were a lot of black people got displaced when that hurricane happened, and there were these programs that would help put them in other communities, right? And there was a black football player who used to play football in one of the colleges where Hurricane Katrina was from. And they paid for him to come stay in a house right next door to us, right? and and him and some other black fellas was in there, and there was another black dude from the local college football team here, and they were roommates. They were all roommates, right? And I think there was a white dude in there with them too, and they lived right next door to me, and we met, and we met through smoking and chilling and hanging out. And then he found out I rapped, and then he met my friends. He met some of my friends, and man, after like 6 months, this dude, like not even 6 months, this guy was like, he's like, I love you guys. He goes, I've never met. He was telling us about other parts of Kansas or Missouri, Kansas City, and Missouri, and Georgia, and he was talking about how in a lot of the country is still heavily segregated, and the blacks all live in their community, the whites all live in their community. And he was even saying, yeah, man, the blacks are racist as fuck. He goes, they don't like white people. He goes, and the white people are racist, they don't like blacks. And he goes, and you'll have some people that intermingle and hang out, but he goes, but I've never been around people that are so openly cool like you guys, that are accepting, that are multicultural, but yet we still don't buy into too much of that bullshit, right? Because racism's racism. There's no reverse racism. Two wrongs don't make a right. You can't turn around and say, oh, you did this and that to the black community. Now we're going to destroy yours, or we're going to hate you. Hate doesn't solve anything, right? People have to come together and use love and peace to get through these problems. So, true story, man. This kid from Kansas City, Missouri, came and lived, and then he ended up living with us. The roommate situation fell apart, and we let him live with us for like 6 months. We rented a room to him, and we took good care of him. And then we helped get him in another apartment, and that guy stayed my friend for pretty much ever. And there was one time I got into a fight with a bunch of dudes, and they happened to be almost all black, because one of them had robbed my house earlier in the year, and we caught him. And we were trying to have a fight, not jump them or do anything bad to them. And there was like 8 of them, and there were only like 4 of us. But I didn't care. I'm not letting no fool rob my ass and get away with it and see him on the street and not say some shit. So we had hands. We put hands up, and I beat the tar out this dude, split his chin in half. And at first, though, I was super drunk, and I step in, and this dude catches me with a clean one right in the face, and I step on my pants, and I fall back, and I land in the water. And then this fool goes to jump on me and try to pummel me while I'm down. And Bakari, the black dude from Kansas City, and all my friends rushed up. And it was about to be a big ass brawl, and I was like, no, 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 I handle my own shit. And but anyways, this dude was really ready to get into a big, like, gangland style fight, to protect me, and didn't know me. And it was one of the coolest things, bonding with this guy, and also getting to learn about racial issues in other states. And he told me, he goes, yeah, man. He goes, there's still very much problems. And then he would explain it to me. And he would explain, about communities that have been, like this for so long that it just became like a way of living. And it opened my mind, because of course, being in California, I'm like, nah, you guys are fools, so I know there's bad shit out there, man. It goes both ways, is the most important thing to understand. It's not okay to bully little white kids. It's not okay to bully white people. It's not okay to be mean to people for being white. It's okay to be white, just like it's okay to be black or Mexican or whatever. We shouldn't be hating each other and distreating each other, or treating each other in negative ways because of our skin color. And I think that is super important, that we need to get through our heads, and we need to fix, to come together to heal, for one. But except me and Hillbilly. Out here, you country or hood, no in between. Yeah, there's Hillbilly hood. Out here, there's lots of in between, man. There's so many shades of gray here. And I heard that from a lot of people in certain areas, that it's either one way or the other, and you in one camp or the other. And I get that. And that's what I think we need to get away from. Is we need to get away from, see, like what you said, you're hill, like you're, except you're hillbilly hood, right? You're both. You've been hood and you've been hillbilly too. So seeing that, you got a little bit of both worlds, right? And I think that's important. Like just like in music. So just to take a little quick tangent, in music, you know, I was one of the first people in my little group of folks that started listening to country rap. They started listening to rock and roll rap. They started listening even to the weird, like electronic dance house music type weird shit, because I like the blends of things. I like the mixing of cultures and ideas and things. It's, you get a lot of cool stuff by doing that. So if everyone stayed hood and everyone stayed hillbilly, you'd have dueling banjos and Tupac, and that's it, right? But you mix the two, and now you got Bubba Sparks. Now you got all this other cool stuff that comes out of it, right? And so that's the general idea, is that even if it's a little bit at a time, going together is much better than going apart. And I'll tell you to this way, even the most blue collar, stuck up white dude who's probably a police officer has more in common with you or with me than we do with the people of China. Because let me explain something, that even though America has its share of racism problems, a lot of our problems are caste wise, meaning like depending on how rich or poor you are. It's like societal, right? It's like, are you upper middle or lower class, or what are you? And then we're divided into those usually. There's racial issues still. However, once you think about it, so America is one of the only unique countries that's like this. You think about Mexico, and what is Mexico filled with? Mexico is filled with a bunch of Mexicans. Go to Russia. What do you think Russia is filled with? Russia is filled with a bunch of Russians. Go to China. What do you think China is filled with? Classism. Yep. China is filled with a bunch of Chinese. Go to Germany. What's Germany filled with? A bunch of Germans. Go to Turkey. What's Turkey filled with? A bunch of Turkish. Go to Colombia. What's it filled with? Colombians. Go to Cuba. What's it filled with? Cubans. Go to Japan. What's it filled with? Japanese. So in each one of these countries, right? Randomly, let's pick one out the hat. Guatemala. And we go to Guatemala, it's going to be filled with Guatemalans, and there'll be a couple white people, a couple Asians, and a couple blacks, barely. But it's going to be predominantly Guatemalans. We go to Japan, it's going to be predominantly Japanese, predominantly, and here's the thing, is Japanese predominantly all eat a certain way, live a certain way, believe a certain thing. They're homogenous. They're like an ant colony. And each country in the world is set up like that, where there a group of like-minded people and race gather together, and they shun anything different, right? Israel's filled with Israelis, right? Jewish people. Iraq's filled with Iraqis. And so America is one of the only true places that is an actual melting pot, where there's different beliefs, religions, colors, races, and where you can have these unique hood hillbillies, have these unique rapping fishermen, right? You can't have that crap in China. You can't have that crap in Japan. You can't have that in most of the world, because it's against tradition. They don't even like black people in Japan, China. They're super racist, right? So there's like a lot of things that won't go down in other countries that you won't get. Here is so unique, is so awesome, is so special, because we have the creation of so many unique things by coming together like that. That's what I think our strength is. And so where I look at it is, you look at things and we're so divided between things like Biden or Trump, critical race or not critical race theory, or teaching it this way or that way, instead of like, common sense and critical thinking, and teach everything, teach positive, teach negative, teach teach everything, right? That I would be perfectly okay with. Well, critical race theory will usually teach everything's racist, everything was built to hurt black people or minorities, which has some truth to it, but also is not true because there's so much black and white and gray and different shades of history. There was so much to tell that it's not like that. So it's not as simple and as black as white. And there's different areas of the country went through different things. There was 600,000 Americans died to free the slaves. The country was not based on slavery, was not founded by racist people. There were people that when the country was founded, they did not want slaves. They did not want slavery. They were like, hell to the no, slavery is bad. White people saying, no, slavery is bad. But they understood that here we are in a new rock, we're over here in a new continent, and Britain will put their big giant 10-inch dildo all the way up our bunghole if we don't unite to fight these guys. So they understood that they couldn't possibly take Britain on without uniting, so they had to incorporate some of the evils of those times, which was slavery. They allowed it, right? And then they fought off the British. And then they fought off the 1812, Canada, Mexico. They started taking over the country. A lot of that I don't agree with. The whole idea of manifest destiny, that it's our destiny to rule the whole Americas. I'm Native American, man. Our country stole a lot of our land from Native American people. It's not right. But at this time, can't go and rewind time and give all the land back and then drag all the indigenous people out of their trailer parks and give them everybody's land and stuff, especially people who these generations had nothing to do with that. And that's how slavery is. That's how racism is. You can't hold the one generation for something that happened 10 generations ago. But in the same aspect, for the people that refuse to see the effects of slavery, the effects of Jim Crow law, you can't at the same hand say that everything is just perfect and normal and it's okay. You can't say that, because there are people that were still alive that couldn't use the same bathrooms as other people. There were people that had lynchings and they had beatings and were called horrible names. The Rodney King riots. You got people that to this day they're still affected by racism. You have plenty of examples of systemic racism, of white privilege. You have plenty of examples of bad things happening from one side, and we have them from the other. So the best thing to do is not to try to pick a side. The best thing to try to do is to understand history. If you understand history, you would know that there were 600,000 white Americans that gave up their lives to free the slaves. So you can't possibly say that this nation was founded on, because there's so much intricacy to that, because part of it was and part of it wasn't, right? There were free states as well as slave states. So there was the black stock market, which unfortunately got bombed and messed with. That was wrong, right? But there were states where black people were succeeding and were doctors and lawyers, while there were other states at the exact same time that this is happening. Black people are being enslaved and they're picking cotton and they're getting raped and they're getting sold on auction blocks. It's horrible shit, right? But this is all going down at the same time. There's so much history that we need to understand this and we need to know it. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything from what happened with the Native Americans, from what happened with slavery, from what happened with the Chinese getting blown up to build the railroads. A lot of people don't understand that we were super racist to the Chinese. We brought the Chinese over and we used a lot of Asian cultures to help us build the Wild West and the railroads, dynamite, all that shit. And we blew those poor Asian guys. A lot of the time there were stories where they would go to build bridges and explode cliffs and stuff so that they can run the tracks certain areas. They would lay Asians down with ropes, they would drill holes, and then they would plant the dynamite, and guys would sometimes blow them up for fun, like it was a game. being slaved, and like I said, not being able to use the same restroom. So Irish people were shafted horribly. So there's this rich history here of bad and good too, of examples of bravery, of heroism, of people, pushing past bad things and making good things happen. And it all needs to be addressed. So, anyways, long story short, we have more in common with, like I said, the most uptight, anal white police officer and me and you, right? We have more in common than we do with the Japanese or the Chinese or the Russian, because at the end of the day, we all still live in a country blended together where we watch television shows that have got different races and people in there. We shop at grocery stores. We're around other, even if there is some racism. Go to China, and when you watch a Chinese television show, all the channels are all Chinese, and they're all like, Chinese people. You got one or two random other people on there. All the music is going to be Chinese. You're not going to have a bunch of cholos running around bumping, Mexican mariachi music in China. I'm sorry. So, but here in America, you're going to experience that, and so that just makes us so much more closer. So as we should be patriotic, we should care about each other, we should love each other. Or at the end of the day, we should be able to agree to disagree and not be so much at each other's throat. If we could do that, then we're not going to fall. United we stand, divided we fall. And look at what's going on with Russia, China, South China Sea, the economy, the pandemic, and then look at history. This is where history is important. Every so many years, the world goes shit nuts and kills each other, right? And even with technology, we're due for another world war. We're due for another big event to happen. And I hope not. I mean, let's avoid it at all costs if we can. So I wanted to go on a rant about how, the world just seems screwed up. We're all being forced into this and that. But at the same time, you look at what's happening in Canada, Austria, Australia, where unvaccinated people are being locked in their homes and locked down. Mandates are crushing businesses and people, and the world is going nuts right now. Here in America, we've got it relatively good still. There's so much news articles about people in Australia being rounded up like the Holocaust all over again, um, in Austria, they're they're going after unvaccinated people as if they're criminals and pedophiles, and they're hunting people down who are not vaccinated. And there's so much craziness going on in the world, while we have sex predator Epstein and Gislaine Maxwell, who has video and proof of all these powerful men that are raping little young women, and they know who these people are and they won't tell us. It's so crazy right now. Our priorities, when our economy's in the toilet, when the whole world's falling apart and we're bickering like little children over certain shit, it gets me frustrated. That's why I want to do this rant. Either hopefully, if you agree with me, great, share this video, like this video, comment. If you don't agree with me, great, that's our American right. Leave a comment, let me know. I'm always open to constructive criticism. And I'm a very nuanced person. I do see things from a lot of different angles and perspectives. And I try my best to understand where a lot of different people are coming from. And so I'm trying to share that, so hopefully more people can be like that. So let people know, tag them, share this video. And if you're watching this at a later time, thank you. Hopefully we can get your subscription, a like and a subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one. But this is Common Sense Talks. I had to go on a rant, and thanks RC Creative for hanging out and have a live dialogue. You are definitely very creative, buddy. I would love to do that, even on my fishing channel. If you'd be interested in helping me try to figure out how to set up a YouTube/Zoom or split screen YouTube/Zoom. That would be awesome, because then what we could do is we can actually have a dialogue and a conversation about fishing, and we can also do one on stuff like this. And I think that it would be really cool and actually get more views if we could use both of our faces, right? I know I'm tatted up too, but you can't see mine, you know. And I know, I have a beard, this and that, but I think you have some more piercings. So I think the two of us, like in the thumbnail, discussing things like this as adults. And then you can bring up all the valid points you want. I can bring all the valid points I want up, and we can have a cool conversation between two people who genuinely like each other. And we can hopefully get other people to see things from our points of view, even if they're different. Because then, if we're focused together and we're slightly different angles, but we're able to communicate and bridge that gap, and we bring outsiders in, I think it would be awesome. So, let me know, reach out to me. I'm just computer illiterately dumb on how to do something like that. I'm probably sure we'd have to set up either streaming software, and or we may have to not do it live, where we do a Zoom call, we record the screen, we talk, we conversate, and then I can upload that video later. I think we could do that. So if you're interested, RC, dude, that'd be awesome. And I'd appreciate your time too, and your 2 cents. I think you're a smart fella. So I would love to hear what you have to say. And then on fishing too, if you could help me do something like that, it'd be like having a live guest on my fishing YouTube channel. So, and also, because you guys are members on my channel, I would like to set something up like that for my members, so that we can do special stuff where we can get members to jump on, and then I can post videos of me and members chatting about fishing or anything, and then we can put those on the channel. So I don't know, if you have some ideas, RC, reach out to me, let me know. Really appreciate it. But we're going to let you guys go for tonight. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Don't forget, we got a live stream coming tomorrow. I am going to be charging the boat up, and hopefully I'll be out on the lake tomorrow. If not, for sure, probably Monday. But I'm not going to miss our live stream. So we'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.